Hi, I'm Andrea Donsky, host of Menopause Reimagined, and today we are talking about the health benefits of mushrooms. I'm speaking with Betsy Bullman. She's the Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Fungi Perfecti, makers of host defense mushroom products, which you've probably heard of. She's worked with the company since 2009, helping to grow it to the #1 best-selling mushroom supplement brand in the U.S. In her spare time, she enjoys hiking, foraging for mushrooms and berries, fishing, and listening to lots of music, vinyl preferred. I love that. Now here's Betsy.
Why, hello, Andrea. Nice to see you. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm actually really excited because I've talked about mushrooms before, and I just think for someone who, like myself, I actually love mushrooms. I take them, but I would love to start with, why would somebody want to consider taking mushrooms as a supplement?
I think that's a great question and a great place to start. I tend to think that mushrooms are just plain cool. And really, I think the reason behind that is because they have so many benefits that we are just beginning to discover truly. There's a mushroom called lion's mane that is good for the brain. We like to call it the smart mushroom. There's mushrooms that have compounds that can support our adrenal glands. Like, there's just so much to learn about mushrooms and so many things that they do to support virtually every body system. One thing that is just really cool to me is that as humans, we actually share more DNA with fungi generally than we do with plants. And so it makes sense that, yeah, that they can confer some of these benefits that they've evolved over thousands of years and kind of help us, to be our healthiest as well.
So is there science behind it? And I think that's something that a lot of people might ask, be like, okay, I've heard of lion's mane. Is there science behind it? Or whatever, turkey tail, reishi, like all the different types of mushrooms. Is there science to support their use?
In a word, yes, there is. And that is like a super important question to ask. So yes, there's actually a lot of data going back decades demonstrating that there are benefits from a variety of life stages within the mushroom organism. So including mushroom mycelium, which is something that I am really fascinated with. And we are at Host Events here. Mushroom mycelium is kind of like the root-like stage of the mushroom organism. And I would say is the most active life stage. It is the immune system of the mushroom. It's sending out enzymes to break down food sources. It's sending out immune complexes to fight off predators and competitors. So it's like kind of doing a ton of work throughout most of the mushroom's life cycle. There's also research on fruit bodies, which are what we consider kind of what a lot of people consider the actual mushroom, or that visual, mushroom shape that you might find if you're walking in the woods. That, generally speaking, is the reproductive stage of the mushroom life cycle. So when the mycelium feels like its life is threatened, it starts putting forth that complex structure known as a fruit body or mushroom. And that's, like I mentioned, the reproductive life stage. So the fruit body exists really to send out spores, which are like seeds for regeneration. And a lot of times those fleshy fruit bodies will only be around for a couple of days. It's a really quick part of the life cycle. So yes, back to the research, there is a lot. Anyone can go on pubmed.gov or NIH and just type in the search bar, mushroom mycelium, lion's mane mushroom, reishi mushroom, or any of the scientific names. And you'll see there's a ton of stuff, a ton of actual published research demonstrating that these mushrooms can benefit human health.
So can you go through some of the benefits that they would help with? So you mentioned lion's mane for brain health. I know that is it turkey tail for immunity? I know there's reishi for stress. Like, can you take us through some of the other ones as well?
Yeah, definitely. So at Host Defense, we work with 17 different species, different beneficial species, and all of the 17 that we work with support the immune system in terms of just engaging the immune system. And then also each of the mushrooms tends to have an affinity for a different body part, which is another thing that I just think is so cool. Body part or body system. Like I mentioned, lion's mane, awesome immune support, plus it's going to provide support for the brain and the nervous system. Reishi, again, adrenals. There's a mushroom called cordyceps that is fantastic for energy support. It's very oxygenating. So we have a lot of endurance athletes who love to take cordyceps just to support their athleticism generally. Turkey tail, well known, well researched for immune support. Plus, it's got prebiotics for the microbiome. So you take turkey tail, you're getting some microbiome, some gut benefit in there as well too. So those are just a few examples of some of the mushrooms and just the ways that they can support, different body systems, different organs.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh, that's a very tough question. I have a couple favorites. I love lion's mane. I take that in a variety of formulas every day. It's just in terms of, that mental clarity support and focus and mental performance. I love it for that. We also work with a really special species called agarikon. And agarikon is pretty much only found in old growth forests in the Pacific Northwest. It's actually like extinct in parts of Europe and used to be found farther south, but pretty much in the Northwest now. And it has some novel immune benefits. It's a very strong mushroom for immune support. I actually found one on my own for the very first time last summer, which was a highlight of my hiking season. And just to see it, because it is getting rarer and rarer, just to find it, like that was a really special moment. So that's my other favorite mushroom.
When I think of mushrooms, I really think of Paul Stamets, your founder. I mean, really, he is the person that made mushrooms so popular. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. In a word, I agree with you. Yes. I think of Paul as one of the originators in the United States of utilizing mushrooms and mushroom mycelium really to support both people and planet. And, in the 70s, there wasn't a lot of interest in mycology as a science. And generally there was mycophobia. I mean, Americans were not, other than button mushrooms, white button mushrooms, there just wasn't interest in kind of more culinary species for the general public, I would say. And Paul has been a pioneer. He has a tremendous body of work. He's written, I think, 7 books now on mushroom cultivation. And he's really been a proponent of this idea of that mushroom mycelium specifically, this unique life stage, has a lot to offer in terms of its benefits. So yeah, his body of work definitely is pretty profound in this field.
What do you think is next in the mushroom space?
I would say in the last couple decades, a lot of the research, more than not, is focused on this mycelium life stage. And if there's one thing we know, it's that there is so much we don't know about mushroom mycelium. And this particular life stage is producing all kinds of different unique compounds, only a fraction of which have been identified. It's really interesting to me thinking of, evolution wise, as humans, if we're being chased by an apex predator like a brown bear, we have legs and we can, in theory, run to survive. Turtles have evolved to have a really tough and hard shell so that if a predator is after them, they can just go inside their shell. Mushroom mycelium doesn't have that, right? Like mushrooms don't have legs. They don't have this tough outer shell, generally speaking. What they have done is they have evolved chemicals. Essentially, they are these factories producing all kinds of really interesting compounds, again, to fend off predators and competitors within their ecosystem. And it is incredible the amounts of compounds that they're creating. Like I mentioned, we've only been able to identify just a tiny fraction of those. And that to me is really where the opportunity for discovery is with mushrooms and mushroom mycelium. And I think, to use this proverbial saying, it's like the tip of the iceberg. We're just discovering what more they have to offer. So I think that's a huge, focus in terms of what's coming down for the future. Product wise, some of the things that I'm excited about or areas of interest in how specifically mushrooms can help humans. Lots of research on brain and nerve support, and especially lion's mane. Some really cool stuff that's in the works. Just continuing how this line of thought of how lion's mane in particular can support us in terms of our thinking, in terms of mental performance, things like that. We're also seeing a big trend right now, and I know this is something that you really care about, Andrea, with women's health, and talk about a very underserved market for, forever in our country. I'm so excited to see that there's so much more research and also just product solutions that are coming out. Women have very unique needs across their lifespans. A lot of them hormonally driven, and finally seeing that there's options, more and more options, is really exciting. And I think that there's an intersection where mushrooms can really support with some of that too, especially like on the stress support aspects, and other just immunomodulatory, like balancing support that mushrooms, and in particular mycelium, tends to bring.
I know that you just launched 4 new products. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, totally. So we're really excited about our Myco Benefits line. So Myco is, of course, one of our favorite prefixes, meaning mushroom or fungi. So Myco Benefits. And these are capsule products, 4 different capsule products where we're incorporating really unique ingredient combinations. So, of course, our organic US grown mushroom mycelium, plus organic herbs and herbal extracts. And then we're also working with nutraceuticals like vitamins and minerals. And this is really kind of a first for us. We've never made combinations with all of those things in them together. And I think one of the things that we're seeing in consumer interests and the data, industry data, is that consumers are really interested in having these unique combinations, multi-ingredient formulations that are targeted, a little bit more customized, and provide that kind of synergy and comprehensive approach to specific needs. So I'm just going to show you really quick. We've got 4 products. This is mood, sleep. This is like one of my favorites. Beauty, so like a hair, skin, and nails with mushrooms and other ingredients formula, and then focus. Who doesn't need this? Yeah. And so really clear formulas with immediately telling you what it's for, what it's going to support with, and what you can expect.
When you go into a store as a consumer, you go into a store and you look at the shelves. There's so many different mushroom products on the shelf. What should we be looking for?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And we get that a lot too from our customers. I would lean into kind of some of the popular attributes that are so important, like certified organic, non-GMO, US grown, especially when considering a mushroom supplement. Mushrooms they're known as bioaccumulators. So meaning that if they're exposed to toxins in the air, the water, the substrate, they're going to generally pull those up. And when you're taking something for health and ingesting a product for health, you want to make sure that it's clean. So I definitely look for those 3 attributes. Consumers are more and more interested in finding products that have been clinically studied, scientifically researched. That's critical. When you're paying money, you want to know that you're going to get some benefit. So looking for brands that specifically have done research on their products is key. And then also, I think sustainability is another thing, especially with younger generations. Seeing what is occurring in terms of environmental degradation, like what are brands doing? How are they taking part in this? What are they doing to kind of clean up their own backyard? And, at Host Defense is something that has been a tenet of our company since Paul started doing this. Just the importance of sustainability. We are proud to be 110% climate positive, meaning that year over year, we are analyzing, aggregating our carbon emissions and actively working to reduce those every single year. And then we're calculating all 3 scopes of carbon, so 1, 2, and 3, which is a difficult process. In addition to then committing to reducing that, we're also working with gold standard offsetting too. So just an example of how sustainability is really critical and something that we're thinking about every day.
I love it. Betsy, thank you so much for doing this. I mean, again, like I said, hats off to you, because mushrooms are so incredible, so beneficial for us. So I'm really excited to see the success of your line. And I appreciate you speaking to me today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Andrea.